Hi, it's Heather, and I'm so glad you're here. We've renamed our podcast Health, Harmony, and Heather to reflect my passion for enriching our perspectives on life by exploring social phenomena, the human condition, and our abilities to connect with ourselves, each other, and the planet. We'll talk about all forms of health, from the physical, mental, and spiritual, and we'll hear from experts that take us closer to living harmoniously. We will explore all things that lead us to our innermost truth, happiness, and freedom. Join me and take the ride. My next guests, Sarah, Gregg, and Jill RItchie, are the co-founders of the Intuitive Psychology Association, the world's first and only fully accredited intuitive psychology coach training provider. Their program certifies coaches from around the globe in a method that blends the power of psychology with intuitive wisdom. Sarah, a psychologist and two-time published author, has sold over 90,000 books, and Jill, a globally recognized intuitive coach, has worked with thousands, including Olympians and celebrities, and together they offer a powerful synthesis of modern science and ancient spiritual practices, delivering transformative coaching methods that creates lasting and meaningful change. And I'm so thrilled to welcome you both here today. I want to learn some of this.
We're really excited to be here today with you.
I just love it. You guys, we need more and more of this. I have a daughter who is about to go to college, and she's just a few months away. She's about to graduate high school and head off to college. And she is studying psychology. Yes, I know she's one of you girls. She's like after your own hearts. And what's exciting to me about it is, like blow the dust off the old psychology book. It has come so many leaps and bounds with not only spiritual psychology, but also science and psychology starting to actually prove things together, that it's not just, the heart really matters. If you're unhappy, you really can have a broken heart, like those early medical books were right. So I love this subject. And so I'm so thrilled to dive right in for you guys. But let's start with just where you came from. So like, how did you figure this out? Because, this is like, the crystal key or the golden shoe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'll start then. So for me, I actually only figured this out properly about 7.5 years ago. So I am someone who had never meditated in my life until the age of 37. And I was probably the most frantic, stressed out version of myself then. And I'd worked in corporate leadership for 21 years. And I was pretty successful on paper in a lot of board meetings, doing all the cool things that are supposed to make us look good and feel good, but I felt completely empty. And it's so funny, I share this a lot. I was in a senior leadership role in corporate banking, but maths was my worst subject at school. I was so bad at maths. However, I ended up in finance. But what I was really good at was with working with people, and I loved just managing big teams and really seeing below the surface of the human person. And so I did really well, and I got promoted regularly. And then when I went off to have my children, when I was 31, I had my first son. I honestly thought, I can still do this. I can still work 60, 70 hours a week and still go to the gym 5 times a week and still look a certain way and maintain this persona. And I did, only I wasn't really underneath the surface. I was crumbling, and then I had my second child, and it got a lot worse for me then. I really struggled to fit in. I felt like when I went back after maternity leave, I felt like I'd just landed on planet Earth, and I was like, I feel like an alien. I feel like I don't even know who I am. And I had stress for about 3 years. I really suffered with sleep deprivation, anxious feelings and emotions, but I had layers and layers of shame on top of that, because at the time I didn't feel like I could tell anyone how I felt, especially in my corporate role, because the truth is, I was overlooked for things. If anyone ever said that they were feeling a certain way, you were overlooked for board meetings, for promotion. So I kept it in. I didn't tell anyone for years. My hair was falling out. I had chronic eczema all over my body. And then I went to the doctor, and the doctor had said, right, I'm going to give you some antidepressants. And at that time, I was like, something happened where I felt like, do you know, I don't want to take this medication because all I'm doing is papering over the cracks. I need to understand and get to the root of what is causing this. And I knew intuitively, I knew deep within that I was really unhappy in what I was doing and I could not maintain that life. So I didn't take the medication. Instead, I did a 30 days beginners meditation on YouTube. And this is why I say to people, if I can do this, anyone can do it.
Right.
And I committed to that for 30 days. And within those 30 days, everything started to change for me. At first, it was challenging. I couldn't even sit for 30 seconds without my mind jumping around. But I committed to that practice and things started to feel lighter. The biggest thing is I started to feel more connected to myself and something bodily and emotionally started to change. And within a few months, I hired a coach. I started working with an intuitive coach, the most incredible intuitive coach I've ever worked with, who Sarah and I still work with now. And she was phenomenal and really got me into what was going on underneath. And within 3 months, I had quit my job. I started to retrain as a coach and I replaced my corporate income within 3 months, working like less than half the time. And for me, that was the evidence that all of those years I was pushing that door that said pool. I was chronically stressed, but actually I just needed to really lean in and do the inner work and trust myself. And fast forward 7.5 years later, and Sarah and I, I've had many, many amazing things happen and also really, really challenging times within those 7.5 years, very challenging times. But the biggest thing I've achieved is more freedom, more connection to myself. And obviously Sarah and I then created intuitive psychology just 2 years ago. And it's been the best thing. It's something I'm deeply, deeply proud of.
That's wonderful. I think that so many people can relate to that story and, feeling like they're living someone else's life or they just can't get off the hamster wheel. And sometimes we're in our own way of that because we believe exactly what we just said. I can't get off this hamster wheel. I can never do it. And the fact of the matter is you can. Change is just within your reach. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Oh, for sure.
But it's just within your reach and it's always there. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Sarah, give us a little.
I love listening to Jill's story. I've heard it many times, but each time it gives me goosebumps. And what's really interesting is there's so much synchronicity in that actually, even though our paths converged to eventually form IPA, it's actually around exactly the same time that I was experiencing a very similar feeling, but in a different way. So I definitely suffered from what I'll call the good girl complex. Like I just wanted to be the good girl, to fit in, to belong, to be accepted, and to be loved. And how that really manifested in my outward behavior was I was a people pleaser, I performed and I perfected. And I ticked all of life's boxes. I have a background in psychology. I'm a member of the British Psychological Society. And throughout my career, I've worked in coaching in some form, either with training organizations or with large universities. So when I was experiencing anger and resentment and frustration, that I had ticked all of life's boxes and done everything that was expected of me. I was the one that worked later. I was the one that would be there for all of my friends. I did everything right, but yeah, I didn't feel happy. I certainly didn't feel fulfilled. And I think even more sad was like, I didn't know who I was. Like, I didn't really know what I liked to do, what I enjoyed. I was so like wildly disconnected from myself. And there's so much shame around that. And I think because I had this background in psychology and well-being and coaching, and people would always come to me for advice, I was a bit of a fixer. I didn't know how to verbalize that. I felt really embarrassed. I felt shame. I felt guilt. And I started to look around my life and all of the external trappings of success. I felt guilty that I should be grateful. Like I should be more grateful for what I have. You know, I've got a house, I've got a job, I've got, a loving like relationship with my husband. And so there was a lot of complex emotions. And it was like, I love, Heather, that you described it as the hamster wheel. It was exactly like that. It was like I was just running and I couldn't slow down. Like I didn't know how to get off. And so my response was quite dramatic in that I actually quit my job. I sold my house and all of my belongings, like everything, plates, knives, forks, the lot, everything went until I was just left with a backpack of my belongings because I thought, if none of this is making me happy, then what is it actually worth?
Right.
And I'm willing just to start with a blank page and just dive completely into the unknown. And that was such an intuitive nudge. It went against every single part of my beautiful logical brain. People like thought that I was having a midlife crisis, but for me it was midlife clarity. It was like nothing felt clearer in that moment. And so I headed off with my backpack, zero idea what I was going to do. Definitely didn't want to coach or work in well-being because I felt so broken. But immersed myself into learning and understanding like where I had where I just gone down like that path. I was so fearful of making that mistake again because you don't see it until it's right in front of you.
Yeah,
Or
until you're looking and you're running on someone else's hamster wheel. You're like, this isn't even my hamster wheel. What am I doing?
Exactly. And that leap of faith turned into the most incredible journey, within like 9 months. I started a little Instagram account. I was writing a blog that honestly, like 50 people on a good day kind of read, but I was loving what I was doing. I felt in such alignment. And it just so happened that this beautiful synchronicity, one person out of the 50 something that read my blog a month happened to be a publisher in New York. And she contacted me and was like, I'd done this particular Instagram post about the psychology of flow. She was like, I love this. I think it's a book idea. Will you pitch for a book deal? And the following year, I was in New York City, like at a sold out book launch event. And it was just incredible. And I think that was the worst point of my life in some ways, but now is the best point. And I think sometimes when we're going through those hard times and it feels like the universe is against you and life is working against you, I always reflect back and think, wow, life was really working for me in that favor. Like I needed that to happen in order to get that real redirect. And then mine and Jill's paths crossed. She listened to me on a podcast. We connected. We've been friends for over 5 years. Jill is the most incredible intuitive coach that I have ever witnessed in this space. And we had all of these beautiful conversations about her work and my work. We started to notice similarities, although I came from an evidence-based approach and Jill was highly intuitive. There was a lot of overlaps in the things that we were doing. We were getting better results than anyone else in our industry. We knew that we had something really special, but it never felt like the right time until a couple of years ago where we got together and created the Intuitive Psychology Association and are really on this mission to merge two worlds that are presented to us as different but are actually the same: modern psychology and ancient wisdom.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's jump right into it because what is intuitive psychology? You know what I mean? How it helps people get in touch with themselves. And, the heart of your mission, at the heart of your mission, it's that you believe the key to our fullest potential, the human potential, isn't more information, it's deeper intuition. So take us through that.
That's right. We really believe that we don't have an information gap, that we have an intuition gap. So intuitive psychology, put really simply, is your innate ability to know, trust, and heal, underpinned by the science and psychology. So when we have something that is intuitive to us, our intuition is really unique to us. We use the collective psychology to make sure that this can be replicated so that we know with certainty, whatever evidence-based method we present to help someone access their intuition, that it will work because it's a collective experience for everyone. And intuition comes from the Latin intuere, which means to look at or to look within. And Frances Vaughan is a psychologist who specialized in this area. And she says intuition is when the truth manifests. So we believe that kind of combining those two things together, intuition is to look at the truth within ourselves. And when we look at the truth, that's when we really shatter those illusions. So I'll give you a really simple example. Like, my illusion for a lot of my life, and still something I have to consciously work my way through, is that I'm not good enough. Like, there's a deep sense of unworthiness. I always want to prove myself to others. I'm always stretching myself. I'm always working towards more. And for a long part of my life, nothing ever felt good enough for long enough, because I just couldn't receive it. Even when someone gave me a compliment, I'd be like, they don't really mean it. I just brush it off to one side. Now, I know that I'm worthy. Like, I can tell myself consciously, I know that I'm worthy. I can hear other people tell me that I'm worthy, but I don't feel it. It doesn't feel like the truth to me. And by working with intuition, you're able to really shatter that conditioned self. You're really able to not only hear the words, I am worthy, but to feel it. It's a felt sense. It shatters all of those illusions of the past that we always and often carry into the present that really constrict our future.
That's beautiful. Give us a little on your intuitive psychology.
Yeah, it's an interesting one when Sarah talks about her unworthiness, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's I'm not safe, and I'm sure so many people will relate to this. It's not safe to be fully seen. It's not safe to be me. When I'm fully me, then people are going to come for me, or they're going to try and flip my wings. So this played out in most of my relationships. I've always had good relationships, but I always wondered in intimate relationships why after a few years I would be like, yeah, this isn't working. Where's my exit?
Mm-hmm.
It's not safe. And having been brought up by a single mom who did the most incredible job of bringing up my sister and I, it was very female dominated and like, don't take shit off anyone, and all of this. And it's not safe to really let a man in. Now, my mum never said those words, but my belief was always keep a little bit back, never fully give yourself to anyone because it's not safe. And here's the thing that played out in so many of my relationships. And I remember working with a coach years ago, and she actually said to me, yeah, you're what we call a frog farmer. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, you turn princes into frogs. And I remember thinking at the time, what are you talking about? Have you not listened to my story about these relationships? Because the truth is, these guys were showing up. That was the truth. They were showing up that way. But it was how I was projecting myself too. I had a massive part to play on that because they wanted to come in and, do these things. And I was like very avoidant.
Yeah.
So of course, when someone's typically avoidant, they attract anxiously attached people that are like, love me. And we're like, get away from me. I'm not safe. And actually, I only really realized this through doing this work. And it is something that still comes up every time I'm ready to level up. That old sort of story comes up again of it's not safe. You're going to get hate. You're going to get in trouble. Someone's going to do something. They weren't going to like you if you're yourself. And I think it's so important to mention that because the work that we do with intuitive psychology is not to shatter these, we do a lot of work with shadow alchemy. It's a technique, a coaching method that we follow. It's not about shattering your shadow and, trampling all over it and talking over it with positive affirmations. It's about walking with those parts. It's about being able to go in and hold those parts of yourself in complete unconditional positive regard, like really being with that discomfort. Because if we allow ourselves to drop in and to go to those parts that maybe didn't get to express themselves, have maybe talked over your entire life, if we just dismiss them, we're just feeding the wolf, right? It's like we need to be able to learn to drop into our bodies, to be with all parts of ourselves, feel what needs to be felt, and allow it to alchemize and allow it to move through us in a really safe space. And that is what we're super passionate about showing people how to do. It's not about talking over it. It's about how do I get so much wisdom from those parts of myself.
I think so many people are afraid
of that. They're afraid to dig deep, and they're afraid to feel the feels. And, we all, like, I think one of the things I think we all can figure out now, certainly most of the people listening to this podcast, we care about this sort of thing. Like, we all have childhood wounds. There's not one person that came out of childhood that was like, no, I was good. Yeah, my shit was pretty good. We could have, there's different experiences, different different levels of experience, different levels of trauma, even different levels of joy. But it's something that we definitely have in common. There are traumas from childhood, just the way it is. Why is it so hard for us to accept those traumas in adulthood? Like that you know what I mean? We have such a hard time. Like, I think we want to live a lie of perfection. We want to live a lie of, oh no, I'm good. Like, my boyfriends were good, but like, you're going to be the runaway bride and never get married because you don't ever feel safe. Like, how do we stop that cycle? And how do you teach people that in your book? I mean, obviously buy the book, but give us some of how you guys I want to hear some of your conversations about that.
I think it's such an interesting point, and you're exactly right. So many people will resonate. And when we're in childhood, something happens to us, and it can be like really small T trauma, like, a teacher maybe like makes you feel embarrassed in the classroom, or you're left out from a friendship group, or, there are complex dynamics at home, whatever that is for you. Something happens to the self where it's so fragile. We don't have, our prefrontal cortex, which is our logical part of the brain. It's not fully formed until we're 18. So we can't rationalize those things out. Instead, they're emotionalized. And so when the self feels under attack, it very cleverly develops strategies to keep itself safe. So for some people, that might look like pleasing. It might look like performing. It might look like control. It might look like anger. But there is a natural defense mechanism that worked. So let's take people pleasing, for example. We know if we please, then we're less likely to get criticism. We know if we're everything to everyone, then people will love us and like us, right? It works. Like, it's a strategy that works. But here's the real kind of kicker that I don't think that you get until a little bit later in life is the thing that keeps you safe is eventually the thing that suffocates you, because you over rely on it. You keep on trading authenticity for attachment. You keep on kind of like changing and bending and molding yourself and losing yourself in the process. And I think we have to, first of all, invite in compassion and just recognize that this is part of the human journey. Like you said, no one comes out of childhood unscathed. This is a path of development that all of us go through. All of us, in whatever level and whatever capacity, to greater. So first of all, you're not alone. And the second thing is it's the courage to face that. And that is a choice. So you can continue down that path and that strategy of controlling every move, needing to know the answers to everything, holding yourself to such excruciatingly high standards through perfectionism. And that's absolutely a choice. Mm-hmm. Or you have the courage to actually go, this is enough and I deserve better. I deserve better than this. I deserve more than this. And it's a case of choose your heart. Like, yes, it is hard to lean into those emotions, undoubtedly. It's hard to confront those parts of ourselves that we have hid from ourselves, but choose your heart. It is that short-term discomfort, not pain, just discomfort, to really get that long-term life of authenticity, of freedom, of trust, and just the fulfillment of being yourself and feeling safe to be yourself. It's just amazing. And this is why intuition plays such an important role. So we think about intuition often as an intuitive nudge, right? So maybe it relates to a person or a place. Like, you've probably been there, Heather. Like, you get a feeling about someone and you can't put your finger on it, but it just doesn't feel quite right. And that's when intuition is so strong in its signal that it floods consciousness, right? It brings it instantly into your awareness. And that's intuition at a real peak. But underneath, intuition is always, always active. It's just below the threshold of consciousness. And when you're able to create the conditions to activate intuition, you're able to get and use that wisdom for yourself. And when it comes to dealing with the past, it's such a powerful way, because rather than re-traumatizing ourselves through replaying those long, complex narratives and bringing ourselves back to the family situation or where we were in the playground when that person said to us, intuition communicates through symbols and metaphors and single words, so that we instantly get that beautiful wisdom, the truth of who we are. And it's really easy for consciousness to digest. It's really safe. It feels true to us. We don't need to keep on replaying that past over and over again.
Right. Once you understand it, then you can accept it.
Yes.
Right. And then you can start to understand that why your triggers are the way that they are, because, well, of course, that's why. Ram Dass, I bring this up a lot, would always say that he would bring all of his traumas, all of his triggers around him, like his idiosyncrasies. And so like these are, like his idiosyncrasies around him, like his children. Mm-hmm. So when something would happen and one of the idiosyncrasies would come up and reel its ugly head, he would say, I knew you would show up. I knew you'd show up for this one, because if you start to understand who you are, why you're who you are, understanding part of your history and giving yourself grace in it, and hopefully giving your parents some grace in it, we can then start to understand why we act the way we act. And then we have control over evolving it, changing it, owning the narrative. For a lot of times, like you said, when something's working for you, why change it? And a lot of people do get through life where, being awful or being a liar or being, like a people pleaser, they make it through life, but they're not listening to their intuition. I believe that an intuition is a form of our intelligence.
Yeah, I think it's our superpower, to be honest. I really do. I feel like your intuition, for anyone listening to this, tell me a time, or tell us a time when your intuition is taking you down the wrong path. Never happened. Never happened. Might be uncomfortable because you maybe have to have a level of conversation with someone, maybe putting more healthy boundaries in place, which feels the discomfort is big. But here's the thing, the mind doesn't really know or have evidence of you particularly being safe doing that. So it's going to be like, red alert, don't do this because you're going to die. And your whole body has this reaction of fear. And that fear can feel so big. What we do with an intuitive psychology is we work with fear. So if someone's like, I feel really scared and I know I'm going to be okay, but it's a bodily feeling that I'm feeling. So we can drop a client into the feeling really safely, regulating their nervous system enough just to drop into communicate with fear. Okay, what message does fear have, or what is underneath fear? So
fear, why are you here?
Yeah,
ask the question.
That's it. Asking fear questions and then unlayering it, dropping down. So go to fear and allowing your client, for us, obviously we always say, we caveat this with, if you're going to do this, make sure that you've regulated your nervous system. And if you're going to work with someone, make sure that someone has a capability and experience to hold space, because sometimes when you go underneath some layers, you don't always know what's going to come up, and it can sometimes feel really triggering for someone. So really knowing though that you can hold that space as an individual, this is your body.
Yeah.
And knowing that you have all of the resources and you have the capacity to use your breath to be in the discomfort of fear, because actually if we allow ourselves to feel our emotions or say and communicate with fear and allow fear to communicate back, usually it takes only around 90 seconds to let that emotion fully process and fully alchemize. And what that does is it gives fear that space and that voice that it's maybe never had. And when we start to unlayer it and drop into it, we find out that underneath fear is really just love, right? It really is. When we go underneath the layers of it, it's love. It's just a part of you that is feeling fearful, and no amount of talking over it is going to make it feel better.
Right. Make it go away. Fear, you'll love this one. Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Love that.
Right. And I'm sure you probably heard it already, but I love that one, because same with your safety though. right?
Yeah.
So if you're feeling I'm not safe, and you actually let those feelings happen and you're like, why am I not feeling safe? Bring yourself back into another reality. You realize you're actually safe, like you're in your own bedroom, whatever. There's no boogeyman,
Yeah.
or fear. What is to fear? False evidence appearing real. There's nothing to fear. Another great saying, but fear itself.
For
So
sure.
it's the chatter in our heads. It's the self-talk, the self-doubt, the self-chatter, and missing out on the truth, missing out on the intuition, missing out on the voice in your head that says, don't go there. That's probably not right for you. You shouldn't do that, but you're going to go do it anyway. Like that sort of thing. I think there's a big difference between taking a risk and knowing that you're doing the wrong thing. Or you're doing it for somebody else and not really for you. It's not really truly feeding your truth. It's feeding someone else's truth. That's why I say the liar who goes through life, or the people pleaser, is really not listening to their intuition, because all the time, all day long, they're getting signs and their siren. I don't know who can listen to a fire alarm for more than 5 minutes. But I think what happens is we develop tools to dim that fire alarm in our intuition, in our own system. Like yours goes off and you hear a fire alarm because you're so in tune to it. You listen to it. You believe in that intelligence that's in your body for reasons exactly why you guys wrote the book, right? To live the most holistic, best life that we can live and offer the best to this planet that we can while we're here. But people get caught up in the storytelling, the narratives that is someone else's narrative, what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be good girls. I used to want to teach my kids who are teenagers, one's 20, one's about to be 18 in a couple days, all the things that I've learned to save them from the pain. Oh, if I teach them all the knowledge I have, but like a child needs the ego much more than an adult needs the ego. It's part of the learning curve. It's part of the building blocks, the suffering, the pain, the trauma I have instilled on them. I'm sorry, kids, but I have. Any parent does. That's all part of the process.
Yes, I could not agree more. It's interesting. There was so much gold that you were saying there. When you think of like a really small child, like a 2 or 3-year-old, they aren't wired that way yet. They're not really programmed and conditioned. They're still so like they'll sing wherever they are. If they're angry, they'll express it. They'll have this tantrum. They will just fully express themselves, and then they're taught, right? Don't do that. That's bad.
Right.
That's naughty. That's not a good girl. Don't be a bad boy. And so they learn to trade that authenticity because they're fully in their authenticity as babies. They don't think, oh, do you know what? I'm hungry, but my mum looks a little bit annoyed, but so I won't ask for something.
Wait a minute.
So I'll just wait. They don't, but they learn to do that because of how their messages are received. Like you mentioned about the I see that as a slutty thing and this and that. And it isn't until we get older, and I've seen this in so many clients, and I've worked with many people in the public eye, and celebrities in particular, who on paper have it all, right? So the money, the house, all of the things that they're gifted, all of the fans, and yet they're so disconnected. And what happens a lot of the time is they numb out. So whether that's with alcohol, drugs, sex, TV, even exercise, extreme exercise, because just to try and feel something, because again, this please, perform, perfect, suddenly it's not about how they feel. It's actually like, I don't know who I am anymore. I've lost myself. And God, I've seen this so many times, and it's so sad, and actually in extreme circumstances when celebrities, have taken their own life and got to that point, it's deeply sad, but it's because, that real disconnection from self. And I feel like no matter how many external things you have or whatever it is you're chasing, it will never give you what you are searching for.
Truly, the past is truly the past. There's nothing, it's yesterday, it's gone, but constantly we're triggered by the past and we bring that into the present.
Yeah.
So, right?
Yeah, all of the time. And, a really simple example of that is like the past is always present. So if you think about, I don't know, a coworker, a friend, your partner, someone who has like really pissed you off in the past, like 2 weeks, it could even be a month ago, and you replay that story and you tell it, you can feel the emotions in your body. You feel your heart rate. You hear like your voice quickening up. And that's because in linear time, sure, it's been and gone, but in your body, it's still there. And that's something that maybe was only like 2, 3 weeks ago or a month ago that you're still trying to release and process. But things that happen in our childhood in particular, they're stored really deep in the recesses of the brain. They're stored in the limbic brain, which is our emotional brain. And it stays there. Like just because we're not conscious of it, we might not even be like have the memory of that thing that made us feel that way. Just because we're not conscious of it doesn't mean that it's not there. And when we're on this journey of personal development or a spiritual path, whatever it is that we want to do, the one thing that everyone has in common is they want to create change. We want to change something in their lives. And you cannot solve your problems or create change from the same level of consciousness that creates them. You cannot do that. So to really create the change, you have to make the unconscious conscious. Carl Jung said this beautiful quote. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate because you're just repeating the same things over and over again. Different scenario, different relationship, different job, same feelings, same outcome. And that's really where intuition comes in. It is the mediator, if you like, between the unconscious and the conscious mind. It brings forward things that are in our unconscious. It brings it into our awareness in a way that we can understand. And that's the healing power of intuition. It's much more than following an intuitive nudge. It's much more than, just listening to our gut. It's actually a way that we can really create new awareness around what happened in the past and use that new awareness to create a new reality, to make new choices and ultimately get back to our full selves, back to our authenticity. It's a return home.
And that practice actually will create new pathways.
Yes, exactly.
So you are enacting change, physical change within your body so that those old memory banks stop triggering the present. They really can stop. You'll never forget it. It'll never go away. It's your idiosyncrasy, but you can get control over it. Once you acknowledge it, then you can accept it and then you can learn to live with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the beauty is change is possible and you can confidently create change in your life. 95% of who we are, it's estimated, is in our unconscious. So we're just running on autopilot. We think 90,000 thoughts a day. Most of those are the same thoughts that we thought yesterday, because our brains are just habitual. So all of our habits, our emotional responses, they're really ingrained into our neural pathways. But when we're able to really stop fighting the old, we create space and energy to create the new.
How do you teach intuition to someone who's not getting the clues, not listening, or someone who is hearing them, but doesn't know what to do with them? Yeah, so intuitively, I'm not in the right job. Intuitively, I should have another life, but how am I supposed to do that? You know what I mean? Like there's the begrudging person, but then there's the person who's truly not hearing the intuition. Is like, I don't know. I never hear my intuition. So let's talk to both of them.
Yeah, I think for the person who's not hearing their intuition, I would challenge that with what are you filling your mind with, right? A lot of the time we can be super busy. And when we're always busy, we're not really, I mean, intuition is always there. There is not a person that doesn't have access to their intuition.
Yeah.
There are some people that are really intuitive, but everyone has access to their intuition and it is like a muscle. So it is actually practicing it. It's like anything else. It was like when we learned to brush our teeth, we wouldn't leave the house now without brushing our teeth every morning, right? we didn't know how to do that, but we it's a non-negotiable, hopefully for most people.
Well, once you learn it, if you don't do it, you feel like you're not yourself.
You feel dirty in your mouth.
Yeah, so it becomes a part of how you want to represent yourself to the world. So your triggers are kind of the same as your toothbrush.
For sure. And I feel like I see this a lot with people where they're like, I'm not intuitive. I'm like, yes, you are. You're busy. You're busy. And a lot of the time, the busyness is because some people want to avoid feeling what they know is underneath that. So they'll say, I'm not intuitive, but actually, is that truth? Or tell me really what's going on, because if you're really busy and you're filling every moment of the day, or even if you sit in your sitting room and you can't sit in silence without music being on or putting on the TV because you need to have something stimulating you, it is about actually how can you create space just to tap in, using your breath, taking some deep breaths, closing down your eyes. And actually, the closing down the eyes is really powerful, and it's something that anyone can do, right? We can close down our eyes. And the reason, actually, pretty much 95% of a coaching session with an intuitive psychology coach is eyes closed coaching, because if I was to ask you a question, Heather, with your eyes open, and then I asked you the same question with your eyes closed, after taking some deep breaths and dropping into your body, the answer would be different, because we're closing down the busyness of the mind. Suddenly things get quieter. Suddenly we are taking ourselves away from the outside distractions, and we are journeying into our inner world. And when we drop into our inner world, we are able to access all of these parts of ourselves, and that intuitive wisdom always wants to come forward. Sometimes we might just get one word. Sometimes it might just be an image or a color. But the more and more time that we drop into it doesn't need to be 30 minutes a day. It can be a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just breathing in and noticing what you're noticing, and asking a question, asking yourself a question, and notice the answer that comes up. If you notice that you are in a long narrative, oh, well, this thing happened at work, blah, 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 you're in your head, right? So sometimes it's good just to go in, taking some deep breaths, bringing awareness into your mind, counting down from 10 to 1, taking a deep breath, dropping awareness into your heart space, breathing into your heart and asking your heart a question, something very simple like, what do I need right now? Taking a breath, dropping your shoulders, and waiting for the answer. And usually it's just one word, and most of the time it's peace, trust, love, compassion. Really, really powerful. So I would invite anyone listening to this to take a moment today to drop in, to come out of your mind, take some deep breaths, the deepest breaths you've taken, and ask your heart a question. What do I need? And just notice what comes through. Notice how you feel in that moment.
And then keep the practice going, because practice makes perfect. It's work. This stuff is work. You're like, well, I'm talking to myself is work. Yes, it is. Because like you said, you're busy, your mind is racing. You've got a million people pulling at you. You're conditioned, the cornrows in your brain have been, traveled on a lot. And so I love that. It's a simple thing. And I was just thinking as you were doing it, I'm like, God, I really need to do that I have this question. I've got a lot going on. And so I'm super busy compared to where I've been. Like, I mean, I'm always a busy person. I like to be busy. But there's like a lot of things are happening simultaneously for me right now. And I used to live my life like that all the time. In my younger years, you know what I mean? As I'm getting older, my kids are getting older, there's different paces of life as we go through life. It ebbs and flows, as they say, and I'm in an ebb right now. And so I have some choices I have to make, because I have to ask myself, am I doing what I really want to be doing? Because now I'm at that stage in my life. I get that trophy, right? But yet falling into being a busy person and, give it to a busy person, they'll get it done for you. I'm not centering myself and taking enough time and space for myself to sink in and like, cause everybody else is good, like I'm running for everybody else, but and I'm falling into some of those old habits, that simple exercise was just such a reminder for me that we all have the ability to do that. And we all have the capacity, how busy our lives are, to take a moment with self.
Oh my goodness, it's everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really is. And I think when you were talking there, what was coming through for me is just because you can doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
And I think, especially as women, I used to wear I have the biggest badge of honor that I could multitask 500 things at once. I could make dinner, I could be listening to something, I could be sorting something with the kids, I could also be running my business. And I'm like, badge of honor. And I wore that badge of honor like it should be something I was so proud of. I can't do it now because I'm so out of it. And Sarah knows this, anytime I'm doing too much now, I'm like, my body is exhausted and I have to go, right, I can't do it. And there's the thing, I get so excited, right? Because I'm like, oh, I bet I could also do this and I could also do that. But just because we can doesn't mean we have to. And I think for you, it's really important to have those moments of stillness, even each morning or any time, really. It doesn't need to be first thing in the morning, but dropping in, taking those deep breaths and asking your heart, what do I need? And there's also another beautiful exercise if you are at that sort of crossroads of the two pathways. Okay, what if I do and what if I don't? Sarah, this is something that we use a lot with people as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's first of all, I love that you shared that, Heather. I think it's really powerful and something that many people will resonate. And I can hear that fear almost of like, what if I repeat the past all over again? What if I take all of these lessons and then kind of like go through? So it's really powerful, and our minds are incredible because they can imagine the future as if it was real. And most of us know that now. So we can use that to our advantage by again closing down the eyes, regulating the nervous system with a few breaths. And this is proven to activate intuition, and simply asking ourselves a question, okay, like, what if I do? So we could try this now if you want to, Heather, if you want to.
Oh, sure.
If you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, so we'll do it like I'm not going to do a full nervous system regulation because we'll be here for a while, but
Yeah.
we'll
We're
do it
all
for a
getting our
bit.
nervous systems regulated. So
Yeah, we're all
we
going to
could
be
use that.
regulated. So place your hand over your heart and just take a few really deep centering breaths, just in through the nose and out through the mouth. And perhaps this is the first time that you've really connected inwards today, and super aware that we're on a live podcast and Jill's here and we're recording. So just allow that awareness just to drift through. And again, just in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just taking a moment just to picture a dial in front of you. And the dial says 3. And I want you to imagine just reaching out to that dial and just turning it down to 2. And as you turn it down to 2, just noticing how the mind can relax. Then down to 1, just sinking a little bit deeper now into the body, letting the mind just settle, and then down to 0. And then from this place, just really from a place of connection, I want you to imagine what you're working on now, these projects that you're bringing to life. And I'm going to invite you to imagine, what if you do continue forward with these projects? How does that feel? And just 1 or 2 words as to how does that feel?
Should I say it?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to ruin everybody else's meditation. Excitement.
Mm-hmm.
There's familiarity in it. And there's uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. Excitement, familiarity, and uncertainty. How does it feel in your body?
I feel grounded but eager.
Grounded but eager.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, secure but eager. Anxious isn't the right word because it's not like
Mhm.
anxiety.
Mhm. So I invite you now just to thank your intuition for bringing that forward. And then let's just bring in some contrast. So let's imagine that you just don't do these projects. You just stop. There's no need to do them. And after this podcast finishes, they're just going to go away. Really picture that scenario if you can. And then the same questions. How does that feel?
It feels easier. It feels comfortable. Like I'm okay either way, like I'm okay either way. Um, and it feels, what's the third word? Because it's kind of like I'm definitely okay if it goes or if it doesn't go, this particular project, I would be okay either way. But I think the piece is why not? Like what's the fear? Like what's the drawback? Like, why not go for it? Why not push for it? And that's probably the answer I'm still sitting on is like to push for it or to just let it go.
Okay, to push forward or just to let it go. So, what I hear is that on one side, there is excitement and uncertainty, but a sense of groundedness. And on the other side, although you didn't use these words, there is a detachment to the outcome. There's a feeling of, I'm okay, even if this doesn't happen, but why not? Like, why not go for it? So, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, if I could have this now, like I would take it. And 1 being if I could, 10, sorry, being if I could have this now, I would take it. And 0 being, yeah, I don't want this. When you think about this goal, just intuitively and naturally, what number comes to mind?
6.
6.
Yeah.
Interesting. What do you think would need to happen to move that up to a 10?
I think probably more excitement on some other people's part might help. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm driving the bus a little bit. And I've thought about that too. I may indeed have to, and I can, and that's really what the project is about. It's about me. It's not really about the other people. But I guess maybe a little bit more. A lot of people are it's kind of like not in their wheelhouse. It's not what they do, so they're not comfortable with it. But I know that once it all starts happening, then everyone likes to come around. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I hear from that is it's a 6. And I can sense a little bit of resistance around that, almost like the resistance to dig deeper to really get people to believe in that for you.
Yeah. I think what it is like, how hard do I want to work for it? That's really what it is. Like, I can get it. It's there. We can do it.
Okay. So that's an interesting bit. So if you just close down your eyes, what if it got to be easy?
10.
Okay. What is your association with hard work to move something forward?
I mean, that's what I'm made of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's maybe one of the questions I'm asking myself, like, do you keep having to be on the back of the thoroughbred and be maybe I've been the thoroughbred and now I want to ride on the back a little bit more. I'm not really sure about that, but like, yeah, am I repeating patterns?
Mm-hmm. So I think there's an interesting link there between the learned behavior of the past of I have to work hard and I've got to get everybody on board to really move it forward. And there's an invitation here of what if it gets to be easier? What if just by being you, people get on board and it moves forward? What if you can hold the energy at a rate that you're prepared to? And what if you can deeply trust yourself to know when to move forward and when to charge and when to lead and when actually to pull back?
Mm-hmm.
So with your hand over your heart, thinking about what we've briefly explored and really just breathing into your heart space and deeply connecting. In this moment, what does your heart need?
Clarity.
Clarity.
Yeah, just some clarity, I think, is missing.
And do you know how you could give yourself and your heart that clarity?
Patience. Just let some time go by. And it all, like, the way knows the way, like, it's all gonna reveal what will reveal. Like, don't stop worrying about it so much is what I just pretty much came down to. Like, it's not my thing to worry about. It's gotta happen naturally. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen naturally. And I can get off, I can dismount the horse. That's what just intuitively came to me.
Dismount the horse. I love that. I love that. So I invite you afterwards to really apply those intuitive insights. So as you move throughout your day, I want you to become aware at points whenever you need clarity and whenever you need patience. And I want you to bring that visual to mind. So when you're on the racehorse, right, and you're running down the track and you're beating the horse to get over the finish line, this is what your intuition is showing you. When is it time just to pull the reins and get off the horse?
Yeah.
So you can even use that as an intuitive example. So when you feel that, the heart racing, and you know that you're kind of like you're on that horse, just bring to mind, okay, it's time to get off the horse. You can name it to tame it. Okay, it's time for me to get off the horse. I can see what I'm doing. I know where I'm going, but this is what my heart needs. It needs clarity and it needs patience. So
My
just
dismount.
dismount.
Yes, dismount. I just wanted to, that was so beautiful to witness actually. And I wanted just to ask you a question, like, what are you, and again, this is one for your heart space, right? So drop back in. This was so powerful. Ask your heart, okay, what am I not willing to compromise? What am I not willing to compromise? Just be with that question.
You want me to tell you the answer?
If you want to share.
What I won't compromise is security, safety, and that also means people's like not physical safety, but personal safety.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. It's so powerful. Again, going back to the horse, because when you're going too fast, right, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
So that makes you not feel safe. So you're not willing to compromise, not feeling safe, and that inner trust within yourself, and just noticing that. I thought that was really powerful. Thank you for
that. Was
Thank
good,
you for
girls.
doing
You're good,
that.
girls.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
can you talk to people about where they can find you guys to start to tap into this? I mean, there's so much more that we could go through about your sixth sense, which is another piece that we want to talk about. But it's all in the coursework. And
Yeah.
so tell them where they can come and find you guys and lean into this incredible, groundbreaking, powerful opportunity.
amazing. So you can always connect with us on Instagram, we'll give you our handle to share. It's at we.r.ipa. We're also on LinkedIn under Intuitive Psychology, and you'll find us individually on there as well. But we do have a website, and we can share the link to the website. We are enrolling there's always an opportunity to enroll with us and become a master intuitive psychology coach. We have trained and accredited the most incredible coaches from all over the world. We are so blessed to have the most amazing cohorts of students come through our doors, from sort of holistic healers to CEOs to celebrities, lots and lots of different people, all doing amazing things in the world. And yeah, there's always the opportunity to come and enroll as an intuitive psychology coach. We take 2 cohorts through a year, and we keep the numbers really, really small, Heather, because it's Sarah and I that run the training for this particular training, because as you can imagine, it's quite deep, and we need to make sure that everyone is seen, heard, understood. It is a 6-month diploma after all, and you don't just learn this training, you are the embodiment of the work. You go on a profound personal journey on this as well, so that you don't just teach it, you are it, and that's what makes our coaches exceptional. But we also do have a free resource that we can share with your incredible community as well. And it is 22 questions. It's the question method. So those kind of questions that we're asking you, they're all on there as well. So it means that the listeners can go and get the free resource, download it, sit in a really lovely space and intuitively drop in and ask themselves these questions, because they're maybe at that sticking point right now, or at a crossroads, or they're maybe struggling with something right now. And those questions really activate their intuition as well. Have I missed anything, Sarah?
I think that's everything.
Yeah, I mean, we.r.ipa, that is not your local craft beer, people. We're talking about it.
No.
Another level of mental treatment. No,
yeah, exactly. It will still alter your consciousness, but in a good way.
We're not going to the pub for this one.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually forgot to say we do have a podcast as well, Heather.
Yes,
so
yes.
We've got the Intuitive Psychology podcast as well.
I was just going to mention it, so I'm so glad you did.
So we have amazing episodes in there. It's Sarah and I, and we have just finished season 1, which was great. We're just about to record season 2, which is really exciting. And the feedback on that has been amazing. We do share lots on the podcast for people to really dig into their own intuition and ask themselves powerful questions and make those changes really from a place of intuitive trust. So really, really good. So yeah, you can come and hang out with us there.
I love it. It's so important. We're constantly looking for this silver bullet of, healing, or the silver bullet of fix me or make it right. And we are looking in the wrong places, because everything that we have, everything that we need is already within us. Yeah. And so these reminders that our intuition is such a big part of our intelligence and who we are, and those 6 senses that you guys can dig into deeper when you work with Sarah and Jill, and you listen to them. If this calls to you, please call to them. Definitely. I'm so thrilled to have had you guys on the podcast. I appreciate the help you gave me today, and just being here with you today, those reminders that, holding the space for yourself, taking the time for yourself, dropping into yourself, and it doesn't cost a dime, and you can do it anywhere at any time. And the first thing that you can heal is worrying about what people think about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you for being so open-minded for an incredible interview. We're really grateful.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to meet you girls. And if I'm across the pond, I'll come visit. That's for sure.
We'd love that.
Do.
We'd love that.
Right back at you. Get your buns to New York, huh?
Oh, listen, we'll be there.
Oh, good. Well, make sure you call me up. I would love to see you guys.
We would love that.
That'd be brilliant.
Great. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for being here today. My true hope is that each podcast gives you some new perspective, new information, or connection into living that brings you closer to your freedom. And I can't wait to meet you here again for more practice next week.